Ding! All right, so there we go. I'm going to pin myself to the main screen for a second. So welcome to this fighter kite session. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have a fighter kite build along for this session, and somewhat last minute plans changed. And I didn't want to completely cancel the event for the fighter kiters. So I went downstairs. I've grabbed a handful of fighter kites from the collection. I've also gathered together a handful of videos that I think are rather good, including one that was a submission to the Fight Me challenge for the We Fly Global Kite Conference. Someone just submitted it, and I'm going to go ahead and show it for this. And I've didn't necessarily have time to get the word out to everyone, but if you happen to have a fighter kite with you, I know Mitch has a handful. This will be your time to share your fighter kites and stuff like that. Whereas earlier, I think it was yesterday, we had a flight of the American fighter kite. So it was very specific to American fighter kites and how American kite fighting is different than other kite chat. So it is open for everything. And I did try to get a handful of different ones. I've got pipas, patangs, and some artistic ones that were the first ones I grabbed. So I am going to unpin my video and welcome everyone to coming to this. Thank you. This is the end stretch. This is the second to last session. So let me go ahead and present this first video. If you haven't seen this, it was a documentary video that was shot for the New York Times. It's beautiful imagery. It is shot in Brazil. So, of course, it's Portuguese. There we go. Okay. So there should be a text translation on the bottom of it when it plays. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic and hit play.
Que não tem melhor pipeiro não, porque muitas pessoas botam a pipa no alto, mas todo mundo voa, todo mundo é igual. Todo mundo voa aqui. Pode cortar uns 10, mas voa 10 também. Quem faz ceral são os pipeiros. Esmaga primeiro o vidro, depois vão passando ali. Sem ceral a gente só vai apenas arrumar encalhe. Encalhe é uma pipa com a outra ficar enganchada até esperar a outra linha do cara ou até mesmo a sua arrebentar. Tem aquilo cortando o dedo, né? Sai muito sangue, mas não canso de soltar a pipa, não.
Opa, bom dia. Já vê aí a molecada, né? Todo final de semana, aquela brincadeira saudável, todo mundo curtindo. Não, mas a época que dá mais volume é a época de férias escolar. O pessoal tá mais em casa, tem mais tempo. Que a gente tem até o general, que é o nosso, praticamente como fosse o guru das pipas, né? Aqui na Rocinha.
Pô, esse prazer que nos dá aí, ó. Você inventou aqui, pariu.
E os desafios começaram a ficar mais objetivos, né? Então, assim, de laje para laje, de subbairro para subbairro, como a Rocinha toda dividida em subbairros. Então tem aquela pilha de quem mora lá no Terreirão, quem mora na Roupa Suja, quem mora na Rua 2. Então as questões vão se transformando em competição.
Cadê meu filho, Paraná? Ia guerra pra cima, xinga o outro, bota outra, viado. Vai boi, bota outra. Tá entendendo?
Um saco plástico de supermercado, né, que eles fazem o recorte. Mas é uma bolsa, essas sacolas de carregar compras, né, legumes de feira, fazer sacolão. Aí ele faz o cortezinho todinho, já aproveitou aqui a vareta de outra pipa que deve ter rasgado e fez esse processo aqui. Às vezes a própria criança, adolescente faz a sua criação, às vezes até personalizado. Valeu, rapaz.
O que eu penso? Penso muita coisa. Quando a gente bota a pipa no alto, a gente se sente livre. A competição é todo mundo contra, um na sua laje, cada um na sua laje. Cada um por si. Pegou, cortou, acabou. Se ficar reclamando, pega, corta, não tem essa. É assim direto. A gente quer saber de pipa não, papel é vareta, acabou. Ali tu pega, compra um papel, 15 centavos, 10 centavos, um papel. Vai lá, pega uma vareta no meio da rua, faz pipa. Pega cola, pega durex, acabou. Faz rapidinho. Eu acho que todo mundo tinha que ter asa. Que nem passarinho. Mas como ninguém tem asa, a gente solta pipa.
I have to say that is the saddest fun video I've ever seen.
I agree. I thought it was very beautiful, but heartbreaking. So while I go finish setting up this camera and pulling out some kites, yeah, discuss. Sorry.
I have to say the kites that they were flying looked like regular American fighter kites. You know, the pipas. You're about to show us a pipa, but they're a very different kite, and they really fly differently. I have a pipa that Carl Longbottom made for me, and it's large as pipas go. It tracks like crazy. It tracks like a railroad train, but you better wear gloves because it will slice you up. Anyway, you've got a kite in your hand. I'll shut up.
I do. So let's see. I'll pin this to the main screen. So yeah, most of the pipas in the Chuckley collection are about this size. Fairly traditional. I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with traditional pipa fighter kites, but see if I can actually show that. Well, that shows, but it's a 3-point bridle. And let me make sure to admit Miss Rhonda Brewer to the chat. And it's a 3-stick kite. So you have the spine, you have a lower spreader, you have an upper spreader, and all of this is held. Sorry, they're closing up the museum, so it's rather loud right now. But all of it's held together in tension with cotton thread. And then the bridle is tied like that perfectly to the center point. But also in the collection was a stack of different size pipas. Let's see if I can undo the latch on this. So we can show painted ones, printed ones, and then ones that have been pieced together. The tissue is actually cut and pieced together. So I'm gonna pass it off. If anyone else would care to share what they know about pipas, let me unpin myself and I'll mute myself.
So is my voice coming through?
Yes, it is.
Well, Robert, stop eating. You're making me hungry. Damn it, dude. I'm just curious, is there anybody at this attending this session who is not familiar with fighter kites? Sorta, David. You know, fighter kites worldwide have such a rich history for thousands of years, but the American style fighter kite is relatively new on the fighter kite scene. Robert, what would you say? 30 years? Your audio is turned off, Robert. The little red thing on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, go to the bottom of your screen, Robert, and hit the mute button. Hit your microphone.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Your question was about modern fighters, correct?
Yeah, modern North American style.
Of course, you know, being from San Diego and being old, North American, United States, I always think Vic's fighter, right? Because that's the fighter that I did start with tissue fighters, but after breaking 2 or 3 in the first 3 minutes, I soon learned that wasn't the way to learn to fly a fighter. So, you know, fiberglass, that was the first time I saw a piece of fiberglass in a kite. And I worked for my dad, so all I did was stand in front of his kite shop and learn to tune the fighter so it would fly like a Delta, much like the story of David Gomberg saying that that was the first kite contest he ever won was with the fighter. So we learned to tune the kites with tails, and then we learned to add weight down to the bottom of the kite to compensate for the tail so that when a customer would come by, we would grab the line and we'd give it a little tug. And I hear people talking about that rocking motion, and there's a new term for it, but we would turn it into a spiraling ballet. So that's what I would do. So modern, my first, after Vic's fighter, I remember with Kathy Goodwin, she had a young son that was modifying, making fighters out of ripstop, half-ounce ripstop, then using fiberglass cross pieces. And, actually he was hand shaving the bamboo spar for the cross piece. And I think he was using modern fiberglass for the spine. And then much like George Peters, up at the top, he would, they would put a second piece of material in there. Like I heard yesterday, someone talking about putting bamboo in the top. They would use a brass ferrule to get the bend up in the nose. Both George Peters and Kathy did that. So, and then the last ones that I saw was a guy named Howard. Is that right? This Howard also makes, is that right? Carbon fiber fighters. Have you guys seen him, Jeff Howard?
Not familiar with Jeff.
Yeah, he's amazing because he did some crazy things, and some of them even look like pipas, right? Before I had even seen what those little kites look like. He was making those using carbon fiber and ripstop nylon, and that was probably 10 years ago, and I still have them in my collection. Unfortunately, a lot of those little fittings that they use to keep the bends and the spines, you know, all that stuff we see, it doesn't last over time. So, but that's really all I know about modern fighters, right? I just know that, you know, it's basically a change in construction of the materials that they use to build the kite.
Right. Well, I'm not certainly no expert on North American fighter kites, but I have had the privilege over the last 3 years to be in close contact with numerous people who were involved in founding of the North American Fighter Kite Association, which, to my memory, and this is not, I'm 107 years old, so just bear with me here.
Wow.
I'm thinking 25 years or so ago, there were people in the United States who had been exposed to fighter kites in India and Afghanistan and places like that, and they came back very enthused about this sport. But the sport around the world, primarily to my understanding, involves very, very long line flying. I'm talking about well over 1,000 feet, to my estimation, sometimes a quarter mile. Mitch might be able to speak to that. I think he's flown in India. But what happened in the United States, as Americans tend to do, is we're kind of adrenaline junkies. And waiting 10 minutes to try to cut somebody's line was just too slow. So what happened was these folks in 25 years or so ago started redesigning these kites so that they would fly in an extremely acrobatic manner on a very short line. And when I say very short, I'm talking 50 to 100 feet. Things happen real fast. Kites are moving 30 miles an hour, I would estimate. So, and because of our environmental concerns, the glass-coated line just wasn't acceptable. And so what they developed was this system of combat called line touch. 2 flyers, top point, line touches your opponent's line from the top, it's your point. Bottom point, line, your opponent line touches your kite line from the bottom, it's their point. And these battles, 3 to 5 points last minutes. They're really fast. Things happen really fast. And so as a consequence of that, what you have is a real high adrenaline level.
So
let me say that Steve Bateman and Bruce Lambert really were pioneers in this the area of developing the American fighter kite and really speeding it up. It's not as though the Indian kites can't be flown faster and shorter, but they're nothing like American fighter kites. And you're right. If you're fighting in northern India or in Nepal, you might have half a kilometer of line out, and a battle would just go on for an hour, and some of it is just playing around. It's not really as, and you're fighting for the kite. If you're fighting in a city, if you're in Mumbai and you're fighting, people on other rooftops, what you win is the kite. You'll cut your opponent's kite and it'll drift down into the street, and they'll send the kids off to go and find the kite, and the kids get the kite. So it's a very different sort of, it's far less organized and much more relaxed.
Yeah. So I actually, I have an interesting video that was sent to me as a part of the Fight Me challenge that I put up involved with this conference. And a gentleman who made his own design. And to me, it looks like a cross between a pipa, a buka, and I was telling Mitch, it looks like it's a cross between those on steroids. So it's a little bit bigger. It's his own style. But the challenge was to set up 2 targets and to either touch them or knock them over. And I would love to share that video with you guys in just a second. It does kind of get into that a little bit of the adrenaline you're talking about of, like, man, got to make this happen, got to make it happen. And it is a 1.5 minute long clip. So let me pull that up real quick.
What is his nationality, Nick?
He is an American. He is born and bred white guy that lives, if you are in the Northwest or you've been involved with indoor kite flying, his name is Bob Plant.
Cool. Look forward to seeing what he does.
Yeah, but does Bob know you're showing this?
Oh yeah, yeah, he knows this is all. He submitted it knowing it's going to be made public. So
if I only see myself on the screen, what do I need to do to see what you're showing me? It'll come up on its own.
Yeah, I haven't started presenting yet, so just
Okay.
a second.
Thank you, Nick. Guess I don't need glasses to see myself. Let's see you guys, though. Let's see where you are.
So at the start, he's set up his 2 targets here. And as you can see, it's a larger single line kite that he's designed and built himself. He takes more time to walk the line out than he does to knock over the targets. It's pretty impressive. So I'm going to mute myself.
Oh, cool.
Let me say
Sweet.
something about that kite. That is actually a kind of pipa, and the way we use pipas these days is we tighten up the top of the spine, and that creates that dihedral at the very front. And so the classic pipas don't have a dihedral, but the new ones, the ones we do these days, do.
I love this stuff. This is what builds skills. You know, notice he's got to stay close to the ground, so he's learning to fly with the kite right in front of himself. Beautiful. Simple. Unfortunately, he's got to go over there and put the bottle up on his own. Now, down in the late 60s, early 70s, something... You guys can hear me out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Victor, this is really simple. Vic had this, I worked for my dad at his kite shop, and I was a kid that came in there, and I thought kites were boring. My dad pulled out from under the counter the smallest kites in the world. Up in the corner of the room, he had a kitchen sink kite. So I scratched my head, and I'm like, what does that mean? But then what came into my life was Vic, and an Indian that could fly a kite in a tree, out of a tree, through a window, stick it to this, stick it to that. To me, that looked like magic. I wanted to do that. Vic provided the avenue on how to do that. And all those instructions were in his kite from the very beginning. How to tune it, how to weight it, how to fly it with a tail, how to stun it, how to ballet it. But I think, like what we saw in that video, what Vic had is all he had was a pole, and at the top he had a wheel, and that wheel was kind of set up like with spokes. And the objective was like what you saw in the video, is to bring your line in there and make that wheel spin. And he had that spin hooked up to that wheel hooked up to a counter. So what he did is he gave everybody a minute, and those that could get the most points would win. It was phenomenal. You know, it challenged you to hover the kite low. It challenged you, like you said, adrenaline. The time is up. You know, that's what makes fighting kites exciting and fun to learn when you get involved with people like that, because they challenge you. And to me, the sport grows by being challenged and by bringing people in and meeting the personalities, you know, because we're all great personalities. We all have great knowledge. But that's the wheel with the counter was brilliant, because Vic just sat there in a chair, and all he did was push the button. It would reset it, and the next flyer would just walk in. So it's very simple to accomplish 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And you get a winner at the end. And the beautiful thing is he gave me the opportunity to be the champion. For a lot of years, I was on the instruction sheet. One year, a gentleman came down from Venice, and I wish I could remember his name. It wasn't Tom Joe, but he came down with a kite and I think he was a Filipino, but he figured out Vic's game. Instead of having a fast performing American fighter or Indian fighter, something that was spinning like crazy that you had to really work to get it to hover, he came in there with a fighter that was absolutely still, nose up. And he let that kite out, he dropped that line to the wheel, and all he did very boringly was just lift his hand. Boom, 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 boom. And I did 175 in a minute, and I think he got me by like 15. But I had to work like crazy. But he killed me. So to me, it's just about having fun and challenging each other, knocking hats off of heads. You know, you got to get permission to do that. But a lot of us can do that. And practice, Vic showed me that practice was fun. So he constantly challenged me. Anytime I flew with him, he would kick off his sandals. So he kind of frightened me. You know, my heart would rush a little bit when I see him kick his sandals off, because that meant he was really serious. He was going to win. And he generally always did win. And that's why I learned my style. That's why I like to use the big spools, because I can bring in my line really fast. And I like to do what Vic used to do in the grass or the sand. You use that spool and you just fire it into the ground like a knife. So it just makes your opponent wonder who the heck you are. So when you go up against me, see this beautiful reel that Paul has. If he walks out in the field and he's going to compete with that, you're going to wonder, who the heck is this guy? You know, what's he got up his sleeve? And I would say a lot of flying fighter kites is just talk and trickery. But I admit there's a lot of detail in the making of the kites, but I have absolutely no interest in making kites. I'm just pretty much just a collector and a flyer and a mouthpiece. So this is who I am. It's great to see you all. I'm very impressed with all of you, so I appreciate your interest. So let me stop talking.
So Mitch, you mentioned Bruce Lambert and Steve Bateman. I know both of these guys, and I just wanted to throw out a few resources if people don't already know about them. I'm sure several of you probably already do. There is a Facebook page called Fighter Freaks. It is solely devoted to fighter kites, from mostly North American style fighter kites, but there are people who post on there from around the world. The other one is, which it's hard to believe these sites are still active. I don't know who's paying for them, but there is the North American Fighter Kite Association.org and fighterkitecentral.com. Fighterkitecentral.com has an extensive collection of how-to videos, mostly done by Bruce Lambert, from building kites to shaping bamboo and using carbon fiber for different aspects of kite building. There are maybe, I'm guessing, 50 or 75 very specifically detailed plans for building proven fighter kites, some more successful than others. On the NAFCA website, there are resources for publications that were done by the North American Fighter Kite Association founders. And I believe on one of those sites, there's access to about a 500-page CD book that was penned primarily by Bruce Lambert, but highlights other specific kite builders in the chapters. It covers everything from how to build a kite to combat strategies. So
I ought to say that Bruce Lambert was really a tremendous, really added a tremendous amount to the sport, but it really hasn't. And I think yesterday's talk about fighter kites really showed this. There's a sort of an unsung inventor here in the Midwest, Bob Hageman, and fighter kites haven't stopped developing. I think that once Americans got hold of fighter kites, we really took off, and there are always people. It's a simple enough form that there are always people experimenting with different forms and different ways of putting in battens and different kinds of nose, and every angle and every surface is subject to invention these days. And so it's a fascinating area, in part because there are so many people experimenting with it.
But so many people are actually participating in the flying of the kites.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, for a while I was afraid. I got into fighting kites decades ago, and for a while I was afraid that it was a dying art. And now suddenly there's this resurgence because it's such a great sport. It's really a fun game, and I'm very encouraged by how many people are fighting these days. Anyway, I'm hoping that I want to see what is left in the collection. So I'm hoping Nick will sign back on and show us what else she's got.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, there we go. I'm going to mute a handful of people just because the feedback's pretty strong. So Let me do that real quick. All right, so you guys will probably enjoy what I found next because it includes one of the American fighter kite people that just so happened he did a presentation on American fighter kites yesterday. So here is a Stephen Childers. I'm going to see if I can tension this and show it. Unfortunately, there was a rubber band here. Let's see if I can lift that up. The rubber piece has degraded and fallen apart, but there's this whole tensioning system that would create a flex in the nose like that, so that the kite would stay like that. Additionally, this kite, let's see if I can show it. There's actually two spines here that run down and split into the tail. So, yeah. That was one of his. He says it's good for 5 to 12 miles an hour. Got a handful more here. Hold on. We've got some using...
Nick, before you go on, let me interrupt you for just a second.
Yeah.
That whole split tail thing, I'm dying to try that because I don't know if you guys can see this.
You might have
in the
to
past
use the fuzz feature on your, the unblur feature on your, yep.
Let me turn off the background blur. Okay, can you see that? This is 1, 2, 3. These I thought of these as battens and not spines, but like Steve Childers' kite, when you flex this, it creates a channel for the kite to track. And this experiment tracks like crazy, but it doesn't turn worth a damn. And so, so I'm dying to try Steve Childers' invention of just splitting these at the very end. It's just an example of how people are forever experimenting. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I love it. So I found some kind of blended traditional versus new materials. So the material on this is all ripstop nylon, insignia tape, reinforcements. It looks like it was glued together, not stitched. And on the back is bamboo and fiberglass. And so you kind of have a blend of new age, old age, and different materials. Let's see. Same for this one. Both of these say they were made by an English fighter kiter. No name attached to it, though. So, this one, maybe one of you guys recognizes the name, but this was created on the beach at Whiskiff in 1996 for the Kite Museum. It's called Stormy Wakimo. Okay, I will leave that up to you. Let's see if I can. It's really hard to read because they wrote black on silver. So, yeah, I'm not even going to guess on that one. But it looks like it's made out of wrapping paper and bamboo. And from that same collection, called the Paper Monster. Rhonda, it doesn't look like that. Very good enough. It looks like Ludo Pleville. So I'll set those aside for the second and get the next batch out and hand it over to someone else.
You know, talking about combining spines, and Steve Childers yesterday had some combined spines, and this is Orcon, you know, the combination of traditional and modern materials. This is a bamboo spreader and a bamboo rear spine but carbon fiber, flat carbon fiber, not tube, but a flat stock carbon fiber front that tightens with a double double bead system, and it's Orcon. So it's very high tech material, except the back of the spine and the spreader. And there's some real advantages to using bamboo for some of these things. I used the thick bamboo. I made thick bamboo in the back because I wanted the back to lay dead straight and flat, because that's what makes it faster. If you want to talk about the flight characteristics, you know, if you have a flexible front, it's more likely to nose back up and save you from diving nose deep into the sand. But if you have a dead flat back, it's much faster. In this case, I formed it like an Indian kite with a little tail on it, but it's really for very light winds.
So that's what are we starting to see more of that spine being replaced with flat carbon? Is that right? And they're starting to mold it with the bend already in it. Is that what we're starting to see, so that the tension system isn't needed? Is that what we're starting to see?
Well, you know, I only know 2 people that are doing that, and
Right.
I haven't tried it myself. It seems like the way he does it is he takes a single edge razor, and he tapes it to a surface at a certain height off of his glass surface, and he feeds this flat. This is a very, very light plastic top. It's a Prismacon, and this is a flat stock spine. And what he does is he slides the flat stock spine against the razor, and it splits it. He splits it, you know, along the flat edge, and you can only do that if it's really pressed down hard flat against a glass surface. And he feeds it into his razor, and then he epoxies it clamped down to a form. Now, I haven't tried that myself, but his kites fly great. Mine all have some sort of tensioning system. And no doubt about it, his are a lot easier to get up into the air. He doesn't have to fiddle with them. This is super light. You know, I'm in the Mississippi Valley, so this is a lightweight kite. This thing weighs a little more than 1 gram. It's got 2.0 a carbon fiber spreader, and I had to put Tyvek tape along the front. The more rigid the front and the flatter the back, the faster the kite. So even though this is a rather large kite, so I get more surface area for weight, so I can fly it in very light winds, it's still pretty fast because it's got a dead flat back and a very rigid nose.
Yeah, down in San Diego, it's Steve Bateman, I guess, started it, and so Victor Heredia is also. I saw quite a few of his prototypes, and they're using the flat carbon, and it's already got the bend in the spine, and it's pretty exciting because you're right. There's that debate about all the battens and what it do and this and that, but I think what the public is looking for is they're looking for, you know, a kite that kind of does it all in one, kind of like the old Vix Fighter, but kind of redone, because everybody would like to buy a $20 kite versus an $100 super kite. We're going to call these kites super kites, the ones that are super hopped up.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you're competing, I mean, this is my favorite. This is called Hammer Hummer. This is my favorite competition kite. And you can see the back is flat, is battened dead flat, so there's no luff in the back, and there's the front has got a little, you know, way of making that more rigid. So the whole idea is to make this faster, but you wouldn't pass this off to somebody who doesn't know how to fly it because it's squirrely. You know, it's fast, but you know, it takes quick wrists to fly it.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it fast. Where I found that a disadvantage was in winds under 6 miles an hour. You know, where you do a lot of hovering, right? It's a different flying style. You're not darting around, right?
Well, I taught a class, I think it was 2 years ago at the conference, and we made, this is an Afghan fighter.
Oh, sweet.
And it's got this big skirt on the bottom of the Afghan fighters, and it's I don't know if you can see, but it's half a meter across. It's big. It's very big. And if you wanted a relaxing, slow, easy, it turns, it spins, it dives, and you can do a power dive and save yourself. But it's slow. You couldn't compete for line touch. But if you wanted a relaxing time, there's a way to make a fighter kite that's sort of slow and easier and more relaxing.
And slow means lazy through the turn. Is that for you, sir? Slow means lazy through the turn.
Well, this still spins within its own axis. This doesn't turn around an external axis. It still will spin on its own axis. But it takes a little more time because it's big. It is slower to travel. It takes a little more time for the commands to turn it. And it turns nicely, but it turns after a moment of hesitation. So you couldn't escape an attack. But if you just wanted to zoom around and do a little spinning, then these big Afghan kites are really the way to go.
Yeah, in my mind, I compare that big spider to a grandmaster, right? The grandmaster quite a bit heavier, slow, slower. You know the difference. It's a lot heavier.
Yeah.
Does anybody know how heavy a grandmaster weighs?
Is that what you're showing, Dave?
What's it weigh? What do you think? That big heavy kite, because it has that big metal piece in the T fitting, right?
Let's see. This one is it's got a metal fitting right there at the T.
I always thought that added a lot of extra weight to the wrong part of the kite.
Let's see. It may even tell me. I've got all the manual with it.
I don't know, what kind of kites do you fly?
Mostly art kites that my wife and I did, except when I go to Europe touring with her, I'd take a fighter kite with me and then take pictures of me flying the fighter kite because that was the easiest one to fly.
How about the other girls that are on the screen? What type of fighters do they fly? Girls? Well, you can be a coffee fighter. That's fine.
You're in for a treat. Rhonda is a master Rokaku fighter. She also flies fighter kites, but never get on the field against Rhonda.
Rhonda and I actually took the team championship. She's a killer.
All right, I'll team up with.
Got that.
I'm third in line.
Come on, Rhonda, where are you at?
Oh, there's that.
She's got that killer instinct. Well, I was going to say, compared to that big Afghan fighter or the Grandmaster. Oh, did you figure out what the Grandmaster weighs?
No, it's not telling me. I've got 3 pages here, actually 4 pages, and it's not telling me how much it weighed.
Well, we know it's the heaviest of all the fighters, probably.
40 grams.
40 grams. Good on you.
40 grams.
Take a look at the size of that bamboo.
Whoa.
That's a big piece of bamboo on there.
You wonder why it was so slow and why a big spider could just take advantage of it so easy, right?
Well, the leading edge is a piece of fiberglass as well.
Is that right? Does he put like a solid piece of fiberglass whisker in that first fold?
Let me check. Yes, it is fiberglass.
See that, Paul? He's got a piece of metal there holding those 2 pieces together, Paul.
No, it's
and this is a metal tip as well.
Wow.
No, I must have the super light.
Well, that adds a lot of stability to the kite. That makes the kite more stable than if you put the weight at the bottom.
The Grandmasters that I have that were produced by Joe Vaughn weigh out about 60 grams. By the way, his daughter is, if you don't know who Joe Vaughn is, he was a pioneer in promoting fighter kites around the world, and his business was selling these Grandmaster kites. He passed away some time ago, and his daughter is liquidating his stock. I don't know how much is left, but her name is Rachel Spade. She's findable on Facebook.
Wow.
I'm curious about this young lady, Donna. I don't see many young folks interested in. What do you have to say?
She looks plenty young. There's some young ladies up here. I see young.
Donna's also a multi-time champion in multiple disciplines of kite flying, so she's one to watch out for.
Yeah,
we're
I like Tangle with Wanda on Rokaku's also. I say we need to tangle again sometime here.
This is
Dave. What is David Butler showing us with his kite there? Dave, what are you showing us?
a black feather.
Oh, it's a pretty kite. You can see nice and clean.
By Dale Vanderhoff, and I've got several of them.
Dale, he was a was he a dual line flyer as well? Dale, was he a dual line flyer?
I don't know, but I know he made spectacularly wonderful fighter kites to learn on.
English? Is this an English kite you have there?
Nope, it's American.
Yeah,
I've got several versions of it: indoor, outdoor, ultralight.
Pretty, and that doesn't fold up. That doesn't fold up. It stays flat. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, nice and clean. Very clean.
I love the flat. This is the exact opposite of that Afghan kite. Incidentally, you notice that the nose is swept, and like that, I have a piece of fiberglass in that front fold, and there's almost no tail behind it at all. I mean, it's really a truncated following edge. So this is very fast, and this is a single piece of flat stock. But this is a double piece of flat stock. I don't know if you can see the difference between the forward and the rearward spine. But this rearward spine is two pieces glued in so that the back stays dead flat and it doesn't luff at all. But the front is flexible enough to take a bow. But yeah, I mean, the experiments are amazing. But you know that if you're looking for a relaxing day of flying, that's not that's a kite you really have to guide.
So, do you guys know who Gary Slater is?
Never heard of Gary. What city? What city is he from?
All I know is that this is a Chevron fighter by Gary Slater.
Oh, there it is. Oh,
whoa, that's beautiful.
Another Californian that made that kite. See, someone put a little comment on there. Thank you. So the hotbeds of fighting kite are where? Southern California, up in Oregon and Washington now. Is that where we're these groups that we have, guys?
Brazil, Chile.
Well, in the United States, our people, you know, people we can see easily.
Well, yeah, that was yesterday's topic. This is all about general fighter kites. So yesterday's topic with Steve, that was all about just specifically American fighter kites.
I'm just wondering where everybody hangs out to fly a fighter.
Well, I can tell you, Robert, that in the mainland, there are no real hot spots. The Southern California, of course, because of the opportunity and the weather, still gathers a small dedicated group of fighter kites. Actually, there's a pretty good gathering in like Minnesota, Colorado, and a group up in the Northeast and down in Florida that's developing. But the things like a year ago at the Washington International Kite Festival, I think there were 4 fighter kite pilots there.
Only 4?
4, yeah, 4.
In the Washington State.
Yeah, and I got them all real drunk the night before, and I beat them all the next day.
Oh my gosh, no wonder. So if you want an easy win, you go to Washington. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you got to bring tequila.
I've always loved the kite flyers in Washington State. Great memories of visiting Washington State.
Yeah, there's still
Oregon as well.
Around. There's Dennis Crowley, Brian Johnson, Steve Childers is up here. Oh, my mind fails me again. There's 3 or 4. Robert Plant, the kite that you highlighted, Nick. He's up here. I think he lives in Tacoma or Seattle.
He's in Shoreline, and actually he's the host of the Shoreline indoor kite frequent event. So it's like the second and fourth Tuesday or Thursday of every month. He hosts a whole indoor kite flying activity at a local church, and they do it pretty much every month except for the summer months. It's really awesome. He's got a lot of people coming into that space.
And he is just a premium human being. That's all there is to it.
What part of the world is Paul from? Where does Paul live?
Which Paul? My Paul?
No, the Dr. Paul. He's a doctor, right? The gentleman that was just showing us.
Mitch Cordova?
Mitch Cordova.
Or Dave Butler.
The good-looking guy with the gray. The guy was looking all, like a doctor in here. I don't see him.
Yeah, actually, Mitch used to be a doctor. Where are you, Mitch?
But where does he live? He's in where?
Mississippi Valley.
Mississippi. Wow.
No, not Mississippi. Mississippi Valley.
Missouri.
Where?
Oh,
Missouri. Yeah, he and I are about 45 minutes apart, west of St. Louis. I'm further west.
Oh, how wonderful! Yeah, he looks like he has an amazing collection of things. Boy, he's an interesting person to listen, just to be around. I like him a lot. That's kind of what I like about kiting, and that's kind of what I miss about is all the smiles, right? Just looking at people, and we're so nice with each other and exchanging such simple information about kites, But we have such a great appreciation for everybody's opinion. So thank you for all being on the screen, because haven't flown with a group of flyers in a long time, or even talked with a group of kiters in a long time.
Well, you know what's special to me about this whole kite fighting thing is it's war with honor. It's warriors that fight with honor, and that has been my entire experience with every fighter kite pilot that I've encountered. I hear tell there's some folks out there that are a little snippy about stuff, but I haven't run into them. Everybody I've battled with has been a total, just you got the point. All right, let's do it again. And it's all shits and grins and giggles. And I just think that's great. I used to be a dual line stunt kite guy, but when Dennis Crowley, AKA Stone McLaren, showed me this little tiny 17-inch by 19-inch piece of plastic, said my kite can do more than your stunt kite can do. I said, I don't believe that. And I haven't flown a stunt kite since. The added dimension of in and out just adds a whole new world to moving a kite through the sky, and it's a pleasure. It really is.
That's 100% true. You're right. The shorter the line, the faster the response, the longer the line. You're constantly adjusting that. I agree with you 100%. That's kind of what I liked about fighters too. It kind of makes you really feel like a magician. You feel like you can do anything.
I could have been better at it, Robert, if I'd started when I was 20, but I didn't start till I was in my 60s, and my hands aren't very fast, so I have to use my feet.
Well, I'm still kind of fast, but what's humbling is it's the vision. It's unusual to go fight a younger person and the kite only be 150 feet away, and you're in a fight and you can't see the line touch. So you don't know, and you can't feel the line touch. Those are all things when I was younger, I thought I could do really good. But now that I'm older, I can't see the touch and I can't feel the touch. So it kind of has me learning almost how to re-strategize. My confidence has kind of been broken a little bit. I got to be honest with you. So I don't think it's to our advantage when other flyers use really thin lines we can't see, because it doesn't help us at all. Also, that's another reason why I'm not really into that spectral line, because it doesn't seem fair for seniors. We can't see the line. At least I can.
I wanted to show you this. This one is Orcon, and it was made by Ralph Resnick in Israel.
Beautiful.
And what I especially like about it is it's a cascade bridle.
Cascade meaning?
Meaning there's double attachments here, and you can adjust it here, which will dynamically slide this one depending on how you adjust it.
look at that. Wow, that's crazy. You got 2 points and they're going to the outside?
You got 2 points in the front. Can you see this properly, or should I turn on a light?
No, I can kind of see it. Oh, I see it, I think. I see it.
Lift it up just a little bit so we can see where the point's attached to the kite. There you go. Yep.
Oh,
So
I
there's
see
the
it.
front, and then there's 2 in the back, and it dynamically adjusts depending on where you slide the bridle point.
Is it better or worse than a 3-point bridle? Or does it do a different purpose?
Ralph swears by him, and he is a fiend on fighter kites.
Well,
cool.
A lot of
if
European
you
fighter
folks
kites.
don't know who Ralph Resnick is, you should really investigate this guy. He's a old-time fighter kite guy from Israel. His best friend and flying buddy is a guy named Efren, who builds absolutely phenomenal kites. He has some videos out of him flying kites into garbage cans, which are
Oh, I love stunts.
This is another Ralph Resnick.
Stunts are inspiring.
By the way, Ralph is a professional artist, so
Yes, he is.
Oh,
Wildlife artist.
so don't try these designs at home.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about me trying them. I'm just a kite flyer.
And then this is the Don Mach. It's big, comfortable, and stable.
How many of you like to fly fighters with tails? Anybody?
The only time that I've ever flown one with a tail, it was a Grenada fighter kite, and they put razor blades in their tails. So you really don't want to be happy with the kites.
Don't want to be your kite handler. No. I'm just curious. That was an old, I learned to sell kites. That's what I did for a job for a year. Just stand in front of my dad's shop and fly fighters. So I always found that the tail was less intimidating to people.
Hold up, Rhonda. I can't see that.
What you showing?
She's showing a signature.
Oh, yeah, that's a beautiful kite, whatever that is. Wow, look at that. Some kind of, is that batik?
Oh, it's a galop.
That's beautiful. Very beautiful. So no tail flyers, no ballet flyers. I think I saw one. Andrea, you said that you would be willing to try a tail someday. Whoops, I lost everybody's voice.
After flying trilbies for a lot of years, it's like having the tails. It's like when you're going to a kite festival, having some kites dancing around in the sky.
Yeah, they do get in the way, but specifically in relation to fighters, it's a style of flying. Flying with tails, flying without tails. I think more people would come into the sport if they were flying with tails. I prefer to fight without a tail, always, unless it's a tail fight, and that's a compromise in itself. With crepe paper tails, you can tail fight, and you don't have to worry about glass-coated line or chasing your kite, or you don't have to worry about not seeing the line on the touch. It's very simple. You lose your tail, it's simple to see.
So I wanted to show something else I found down in the archives, because soon I have to pack all of this stuff up and put it back into the archives properly. It takes a bit to package it back up. But there was a handful of fighter kites that were specifically painted and gifted to Kay Busing, who used to run the World Kite Museum. They're rather delicate, so let's see if I can show them. But
oh boy, look at that! Wow, yeah, those are wow. That's
yeah,
great.
the material is kind of falling apart. So I'm
oh my God, they're beautiful. Look at that Indian design of some type. Look at that. Oh my gosh, who the heck is that? Wow. You would never want to fight with those. Those are too beautiful. But man, you got to have those in your collection for sure. Those are amazing.
And here was a drawing mock-up that they didn't quite finish, but that was their, you can see the pencil line still in it. They were kind of messing around with it. So I need to go try and put these ones back into their packaging and hide them.
I got a Long Beach, Washington Kite Festival fighter kite story, a quick one. One time, you know how Long Beach will bring international flyers in from every year from different countries. One year they brought a gentleman in from India. They told him the festival is in Washington. So he booked his flight. I think it's the week of the kite festival. He calls Kay Busing on the phone and he says, I'm in Washington. Where's the kite festival? It turned out he was in Washington, D.C. So I think he missed 2 or 3 days of the kite festival. He did eventually make it there. He had a bunch of beautiful, I remember, Mylar fighter kites that said Long Beach, Washington on them. But the good news is he made it to the festival. But boy, what an embarrassing thing to happen, to go to the wrong city when you're going to a kite festival. Especially being paid to go there. Well, so supposedly paid to go there. At least he got a ticket out of the deal.
So, Nick, I just want to take the last opportunity here, because I think this is about over, to thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy.
You're techno savvy, and really what a great spirit you're bringing to this community. It's you and I have butted heads in the past, but yeah, I love you, girl. So
who do you butt head with? Oh, Jim.
Jim. I'm used to it. I just go, it's Jim Peavers. He's all pissy right now. Give it about 5 minutes and he'll calm down.
Now
so
you're just gonna make me all weepy-eyed.
The cool thing is about this chat system, here shortly, I do need to sign off because I need to hop over to the last session of the day. But the chat session can continue. It'll keep recording, and this recording will go up on YouTube in the following week. So it can keep going even if I check out. So yeah, actually, and it is almost my call time to check out, but I will be here for just a little bit longer.
Dang it. Nobody's going to show off and go and grab their kite and give us a demonstration, huh? Well, that's okay.
This is a good place to go. Cervia, Italy, has some really good fighter kite people. Gerhard Zitzman, Sherwood. It's not Sherwood Smith. I said Sherwood Smith, but that's not. Sherwood is originally from India. He lives in Britain, and he is incredible. He flies in and out of trees. He will clip a balloon string and then pop the balloon.
Nice.
Throw it up against buildings, pull it off, knock off hats. And he is always invited back because he's that good.
Sweet. Well, if you're ever down in the Southern California, I do live in Hawaii, but I'm originally from San Diego, and I do intend on being on San Diego a lot more. I'd like to meet up someday somewhere down there with some of you guys. If not, it'll be up in Long Beach, or, you know, I'll make it back to those festivals again. It's always been wonderful being with you folks. I love showing off. That's all I do. Look at, that's a pretty kite you have there. Is that just regular Scotch tape on there, Nick? Is that Scotch taped?
Yeah, it looks like someone put Scotch tape to repair it, and of course the cellophane tape is aging poorly.
Yeah, we all learn that. We all learn that way. We love our kites so much, you know. We try to help each other. Yeah, traditional applique. Those are beautiful.
Yep.
Indian fighting kites, very delicate. American kites, much more durable. Beautiful, beautiful.
So, Robert, are you the guy from Lahaina?
I am indeed.
I was in Maui once and brought my kites, but forgot my line, so I came and visited you one day.
You look familiar. Did I help you out?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then last year I was in California and we were at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and I'm wearing some kite shirt, and random person comes up to me and says, oh, do you fly kites? He's like, yes, I do. It's like, do you know Robert in Lahaina?
That must be Suli Sabo. She was
It
in the,
was.
were you in the you were in the Monterey Bay Aquarium?
Yes, that was
Oh, we
her.
are so connected. Her husband has passed now, died from cancer, but she is a sweetheart woman. But her husband was they were one of the first sponsors of the Hawaii Challenge. They a couple of years created a 32-page event program for us. They designed shirts for us. But if it wasn't for her husband, I would have not accomplished any of that. So it's amazing that you met her. She's a wonderful woman.
Well, I keep on hearing that you were the one who taught Ray Bethel how to fly.
Well, I keep putting it out there so people know that, because now everybody thinks he's a god. So I got to be somebody. But yeah, he used to crash like crazy.
So you're the creator of the god.
No, I wasn't trying to say that.
No.
I wasn't trying to. I'm very humble. When I was young, I wasn't that humble, but I became very humble probably around my 50s, and I'm now 64. So I'm trained now. I behave now. I respect.
So does everybody understand that Robert Loria holds the world record for flying the most fighter kites on one line?
Yeah, and I think Jim and Stone are the reason that happened, you guys, because one of those guys told me, hey, you're what did he say? He says you're resting on your laurels. I don't know the American. How is that said? Something about I was living on my laurels or something.
Oh, so that was me.
That was great. You got under my skin. I love you for that, because you just made, with Corona, all you did was help me bring me back to kiting. I mean, if it wasn't for you guys, I mean, you fired me up. So I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you so much for increasing my interest and bringing all these wonderful memories back, because I love fighters, and I continue to, as I age, I will continue to represent the sport as best as I can.
So I'm going to recommend some fighter kite designs for folks if they haven't tried them out. Remember, I've only been doing this for a few years, so I don't really have that much experience. But for me, there are about 4 or 5 plans that really fit my flying style. Now, Stephen Childers designs a really extremely competent, competitive kite, and I can't fly it worth a crap, but he flies the hell out of it and beats me all the time. But for me, it's been a Jeff McGinnis kite design that came from the 90s. It was called the Silhouette. It's specifically designed for very light winds. Ralph Resnick Fighter 3, moderate winds. It's a very controllable kite and very predictable, so it makes it easier to plan your battle strategy around it. And then Bruce Lambert's Slow Dog, and there's a guy from Austria named Gerhard Zertmann who has a couple of kite designs called the Crazy Chicken and the Zorro. And these kites are extremely unstable and extremely quick to react to line changes and line tension. So
it's Gerhard Zitzmann.
Thank you. And he is a delightful human being as well. And
so is his wife.
Very generous in his knowledge. But those are the kites that I enjoy building and flying the most. So by the way, just as a selfish thing here, if anybody has any black work on, I'd appreciate some of it.
Where is Fabian from? Fabian Rodriguez, where are you from, sir?
Hello, I'm from Argentina.
Wow, wonderful. Welcome. Aloha from the island of Maui. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for you.
Are you a fighter kite?
My English is very, very bad, but understand.
You fly the fighter kite?
Yeah, yes, I like.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for you.
Nick, you're great. This woman at the top, she's a good girl. She's doing some great things. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for caring and loving us all.
All right, and actually, it is my time cue to hop out and start my last session of this 2.5 days. So again, you guys can keep chatting. I'm going to hop over and get the next session started, where I highlight some of the folks that have submitted for the challenge already. So look for this to happen again. I just need a little break first.
Very clever. Well, you know what it's all about. You know what it takes to do it. We just sit here. Thank you. You're the best. Very good. Aloha, everybody. It's been a pleasure meeting you guys all. Sir, Andrea's, your husband, what's his name? Yes, you. What's your name? The one that went to Lahaina. Can you hear me? I'm off again. I can't hear you, but I see you.
There's my button. I'm Andre. That's Dorothy.
Okay.
That's Dorothy.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I apologize for the mistake.
That's okay.
And I wish we would have got to fly kites more when you were here. And hopefully in the future sometime we will get a chance to fly.
Yeah, I think you were working.
All of us. Yeah. All of us. And if I'm lucky, I will go to Argentina someday and fly kites too someday.
Yes, we have to retire first.
I'm trying to figure out the same thing myself. I know, well, Corona has me out of business. I have 2 stores, but I haven't worked in 6 months. So that's just how it is. Love you guys all.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening and being so kind and polite, everybody. Thank you. Aloha. Bye-bye now.
Aloha, Robert.
There's